coming through?
Yeah, not too bad. Just regular cell phone stuff.
No, I mean his video.
Is it bad for you? I don't have it on video.
Okay.
I think he's in his pajamas. His kefalo pajamas.
No. Hey, Cody, before we get going too much, I may tell the story of, I'll leave everything out, but the story of what you and I talked about with the Drew First Blood thing.
Okay.
Do you mind?
We're
or you
live.
want me to leave that out?
No, go ahead. We're live now, so we're hot now.
Oh yeah, well I haven't told the full story, so it doesn't matter.
No, we're good.
But that may pop up in the interim here. But anyhow.
Oh, almost done here. Almost done. So, you guys ready to roll?
Yeah, it shows
yes,
that we're
sir,
live.
I have a big.
Yeah. Hey, so how's it going, Cody? Aaron, what's happening?
Great.
Great.
I'm
You don't sound
peachy.
very. Cody doesn't sound very thrilled here. Would you just wake up or what?
No, I'm thrilled. I just never. I don't know what to expect. It's like whenever you're in high school. I'm like, hey, so and so wants to meet you at the tracks. You don't know if you're there to go play some ball or fight. So when Patuto calls me and tells me to be on a stick ball, I'm like, all right, is this an ambush meeting?
Oh, hey, you know what?
That was totally my idea and my fault.
I'm ready for anything.
Well,
I've got crossbows back here. I've got ASLs over there. I'm ready.
You got air guns too? You got to have it all.
I don't have an air gun. No,
I thought ASL was a disease.
Yes. No, I've got some ASLs. They're hard to shoot.
Well, Cody, I felt the same way because Aaron's kind of been shooting the compound here lately, and I talked to him last week, and I said, "Hey, what do you want to do this month for the Empty Quiver episode?" And he says, "Let's call Cody Greenwood." And I thought, "Oh shit, I'm getting ambushed." So same.
Right. We're both coming in from. We're just coming from neutral corners right now. So if he dies, he dies.
I tell you, and I got flack for this, but whatever. I forgot what it's like to hit everything I'm aiming at inside of 100 yards. And I'm not shitting. It's like, oh, that elk's over there at 89. Here, let me dial this in. It's just different. It's and I initially I think people thought I was going back to compound, or at least the ones that like to stir up shit. But I just do, I answer a lot of tuning questions, compound tuning questions. So I figured I'd set a few of them up just to answer, questions. Something actually, Cody, you talked about doing too on the, the Trad Lab is there's a lot of bro science out there that, some of it's bro science, some of it's true. And, for me, it's really just keeping people from wasting money, right? Like, what's a Hoyt 1700? Pretty much every other bow's $1,000 to $1,200, and arrows are expensive and tuning, right? I had a guy the other day spend $600 on arrows off a phone call to an arrow to a arrow company, and he's like, yeah, I talked to him. I said I could cut it down to 30. I cut them all down. I'm like, dude, you messaged me and I told you do not cut the arrows down. You're shooting a 200 spine arrow. I told you do not cut anything off the arrow when you start to tune. He's like, yeah, they're tearing stiff. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they are. You're shooting 200 spine arrow. Right. I'm sure it's tearing a little stiff. But that kind of stuff just to help, people out. But it's not as fun as the stick. I took my wife, we shot a 3D course and I shot a crazy score and we got back. I'm like, yeah, this isn't as fun. It's not even close to as fun as it is shooting a recurve.
Well, time out. I didn't watch the whole Instagram story, but didn't Luke beat you?
No, he did not. I will say,
Aaron can't
Luke
see our video, so we can play all kinds of tricks on Aaron here. You can't see us interacting.
I will say Luke shot the best. He shot unbelievably good. Like on target 16, he's like, man, I'm shooting good today. I'm like, yeah, Luke, you're shooting good today because I'm shooting lights out and you're only like 8 points behind me. And he shot normally in 20 targets. He's got a couple fives and a 0 in him, right? He's going to shank one in the buckwheat. He shot 2/8 the entire day, maybe 3. So he ended up shooting out of 20 targets, like a 200, and I shot a 208, I think, or he shot a 200 and I shot a 206. I can't remember. And there was speculation on one of the arrows if it was in or out. But he shot really, really good. Which, it's good to see he's improving. I mean, he's really improving. So it's good to see.
I did see one arrow that was pushing the line. I thought it was in.
Yeah, that's the one. He asked me, and it wasn't like he and I were arguing. I'm like, man, it could go either way. I said, the thing is, if you continue the line, in my eyes, it's in. It's pushing that other line in because it's shot up.
Right.
I said,
it didn't look like it was pulling.
Right, yeah, it was pushing it, not pulling it. I said, in a tournament, I would call that in, Luke. And I said, even if you were going to beat me, I'd call it in. And I've always, when I score, always been that way. Like, you can't deviate. You don't like a guy. It's like, oh, no, that was not in. But you could call that out, and somebody could, you can't complain too much either. But, I mean, we're shooting those targets. I mean, there's probably 6 in that one course we shot, between 42 and 50. And we were stretching them out. So it's good. It's good to see, Luke improving. And Luke's he's just a good guy. I did have an advantage cardiovascularly. I don't know if you saw the part where we were climbing the mountain. That thing is a mountain course. Like, you send a Georgia boy in there, like 280, he ain't gonna like it because you climb 800 feet from the valley to the top, shooting the whole way up. It's a beast. It's like elk hunting. Did you hear Luke breathing?
Yeah, he was
no, I actually didn't get to watch much of it.
And then he was up first to shoot.
Yeah,
he was
I'm
up
just
for
broken. I'm just prodding you.
It is amazing the difference. We've got to shoot hogs with or hunt hogs with Bill. We're spotting and stalking last week, and there's 3 trad guys there, 1 compound guy there, and the only way you're going to get a hog is when Bill lets you, because it's just amazing. You forget when you don't hunt with a compound the effective range they have. You got to get a lot closer.
Well, we were on the valley floor, and the target 2 going up the hill is a goat, right, through trees, and we're walking, and I can see the goat, and I look, and I'm like, oh, there's a gap in the trees there, so I range it, and 37-degree slope, 78 yards. I laid 3 in the 10 from that specific spot. That is a minimum par 4 3-hour stalk with a stick bow. And I was just, boom, boom. I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't hunt with this thing. It's just not, I say it's not fair. I'm sure I'll get flack for that, but I mean, it's just easier. And I like that. I like to be able to, I like that adventure getting in close. In comparison, it's just different. I've got a 7-pin sight with a dial out to 122 yards right now. So it's not exactly I hunt close #stick bow. I mean, it's like I hunt far.
Duck because I hunt far.
Oh, it's like it's like #I don't need to know how to stalk is what it is. I mean, literally, it's like, oh, here's one. You can swing an arrow on it. Oh, there's another one.
Well,
night and day.
Cody, it was funny. Aron said, "Hey, yeah, we should get Cody on and we'll shoot the breeze." And well, I got to thinking today. We got 3 distinct corners when we come from the trad world sitting here. I won't pick on myself, but you, Cody. We'll start with Aron. Aron, he starts in trad just because somebody says he can't.
Oh, is that what this is about? This is all about spite? This is a spite move?
Yeah. No, you look at the difference. Yeah, look at the difference. Yeah, so he does it because someone says he can't. And you get in and you're so analytical, and contrary to what everything traditional archery has been for me. and then I've been here for a while, and I'm going, what the hell are these guys doing? So it's quite a mix. It's a good mix.
It's easy. It's funny because people come in because and I get this message a lot. They're like, I'm in trad because I want it to be more simple, and they're usually crossover shooters, and I get a feel for their compound. And I'm like, well, what'd you do for compound? Around September, I take my bow into the shop. They build me arrows. They tune my bow. I practice for a few weeks, and I'm like, trad is going to be so much more technical. It takes a lot more than that to shoot trad. Like, hold on.
Tuning is the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get, the same kind of thing where like, I try to, help people out online. And the one thing I get across is, hey, if, let's say you want it simpler, meaning you don't want, bow presses and sights and second and third axis. And, you just want bow, arrow, string. You're also going to have bow, arrow, string, and a shitload of shooting. And people forget that. I grabbed that compound. I was sighting it in when Luke showed up, right? I'm moving my pins, dialing everything in. No problem. Yeah, with a stick, you need to shoot a lot to be, proficient out to any decent distance, anything past 10 yards, really. You got to practice a lot. So it simplifies some things, but it adds a lot more complexity in others that I have found.
Well, I gotta tell one on myself because for me, in retrospect, when I'm listening to Cody or early Aron days, I'm always quick at the mouth, right? So it's not always good.
No way.
Yeah,
No.
I'm always quick at the mouth. And then trad veins was a good example. Like, it's the stupidest damn thing ever. Why the hell? Yeah. So, but if you're like me, you get good at eating crow, and like Val Kilmer said, my hypocrisy knows no bounds. So.
Change is difficult.
It can be. I tell you, one of the reasons I wanted Cody to get I frequently defend Cody as well as I'm thinking he probably has to defend me. But the thing with any technology, any change, anything different, there's going to be and you guys chime in here when I'm done, but what I have found is there's the status quo industry standard of what's okay and what's not. Meaning, for whatever reason, carbon arrows are okay. Trad vanes, devil. Okay. Carbon limbs seem to be okay. Aluminum risers, devil. Hey, all right, little hypocrisy there, whatever, right? All right, you can use 3M two-phase tape with Velcro that was invented by NASA. Okay. But don't put I'm gonna start dropping bombs. Don't put an elevated rest on. But 3M tape invented by NASA and Velcro is just fine. The hypocrisy of that is, to me, like, well, man, where's your line you're drawing? And obviously everybody has a different line. And I would say, as an industry standard, Velcro arrow rests off the shelf are fine. Carbon limbs are okay. Wooden risers are okay. Carbon arrows are okay. But you got to have feathers on the carbon arrows. You can have carbon limbs, but you got to have a wooden bow. Right. You can have Velcro invented by NASA, but don't put a piece of all thread through your riser. I mean, because you're going to go to hell. Right. That I don't get. And that's one thing Cody and I do agree on, which, Rob, you may not.
Oh, yeah. No, you know what? You point out the hypocrisy, right? Because I'll throw myself in the bunch, right? You just go along with status quo. But then when then somebody starts pointing out the hypocrisy, you go like, well, screw you.
Yeah.
we started.
Wait a minute.
We started shooting these springies, and I was catching hell, and I looked it up the best I could, and I think it was 1974 the springy was introduced. In 1974, and I'm like, man, we're early adopters, right? We still haven't accepted the springy rest, and the first hunting metal riser that I can find is 1971, and I have guys write me, and they're like, that's not trad. I'm like, how old's that bow of yours? Like, I got it last summer. I'm like, this is from. I've been shooting the same metal bow since Masters of Airbow 1 came out. And I think it's funny how people view things.
Well,
yeah, I get it. And
trad is 1967. Ahead, in case you guys were wondering, 67.
Is that it?
It's
67.
Well, hold on. Let me shit on everybody's parade. I just watched Fred Bear, and the effective distance, according to the father of traditional bow hunting, was inside of 50 yards. He says it multiple times. on his DVD, says it in his memoirs or his his writings. Inside of 50 is A-OK. So that was in the 60s, right? I mean, when I watched that video, 70s time frame. But now, I remember I shot a deer at 42. I'm not sure what level of hate mail I got, but I got all of it. There was lots of that's unethical, whatever. And I'm like, well, hold on. We can't pick and choose. We can't say Fred Bear said to wear plaid, camo's stupid. But then when I say, well, Fred Bear also said inside of 50's okay, that's the kind of stuff I get a kick out of.
Well, Aron doesn't realize that when he starts talking blasphemy like that, I just mute him.
I tell you what, that you are not the only one. When God forbid the voice of reason step into the equation, and that's when the mute button gets hit. He's making sense. Screw that guy.
Somebody just commented poison arrows too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right.
poison arrows, and again, like I don't, and I think I'm way more along the lines of where Cody's at. Although there's no way I'm putting V-bars on my recurve for a.
I'm not
shooting
doing
in
that
the
again.
tree stand to make fun of Rob. Yeah, Jesus H. I saw that, I was like, Jesus, dude, you've gone to plaid. What is that on Spaceballs?
Yeah, we've
never
gone
show this
full
again
plaid.
ever. Go ahead.
I had a coronary right there on my birthday. That birthday card.
Birthday.
Yeah,
That's the
I had
only
a
value
coronary.
that came out of it. It cost me. You got to find the line.
No, well, I think that for me is accuracy and keeping people in the sport. So, in my case, I recently went to a metal riser bow, and there's nothing wrong with wood. I am a tuning freak, right? I'm one of the most anal tuners in the world. I'm constantly changing spring tensions and inside, outside on the shelf. What killer tuning, and it's harder to do that with a wood bow. And if people like shooting a wood bow, I'm like, hey, shoot a wood bow. But whatever keeps people into the sport, and if that's maybe if they're regressing in technology, they go into a compound, but they grab a Satori or a DOS or whatever, and they start off with a rest they can adjust to simplify their tuning or to get arrows to fly that they had, so because they can't afford new ones, whatever. I'm all about that. I think that that's great. But when you start the blasphemy, that's not trad, and then I see the dude's got a set of A&H limbs, I'm like, well, I don't think the Native Americans could make the limb cups for an extra 12 feet per second. Last time I checked, but hey, who am I to say, right? Like I don't want to get into that argument. I just want people to be happy, and shoot well.
Let me
we're
ask
tough
you.
on one another, that's for sure.
Let me ask you this, both of you guys. What percentage of the so you have guys that are dyed-in-the-wool bow hunters, and my view is a little bit jaded. Man, lightning's hammering. I hope we don't lose this. My view might be a little jaded, being in the state I'm in, but what percentage of guys do you think are bow hunters, whether it's rifle season or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think that the guy that's going down September 1st down to the bow shop and getting arrows made, if there wasn't a bow season, would he be hunting? You know what I'm saying? Is he a 2-season hunter or is he a bow hunter?
Oh, I'd say there's probably less than 5% are purist bow hunters. I'm
that
not
both
a purist
sides.
bow hunter.
Well, yeah, I mean, 99.9% of the time you're bow hunting, right? If
Yeah.
you're not there because of
for
the
me,
season.
if I paid for right. I mean, for me, like I've been on many different, hunts. I'm only bringing up me for an example because I think there's a lot of guys like me that when I was on the grizzly hunt, they said it's going to be banned next year. And I was just going to keep coming back till I got one with a stick. That was my second trip. And I said, okay. And so the last night I grabbed a gun. When the wolf came out and took off running, when I dove out of the truck, I wasn't grabbing my recurve at 300 yards. I wanted a wolf. I grabbed, I don't even know what it was, but I grabbed the gun. Having said that, I shot all the other animals with a stick. I think there's a lot of people like that, but straight up purist bow hunters, I'd say is, maybe 1%, maybe, less than 5 anyway, but.
Yeah, it's definitely small, but the group that I'm more interested in, and I think it's a much more common number, are the guys that practice with their recurves all year and enjoy shooting them, or their longbows, and right before season pick up their compound, because they just can't break to that. They can't get to that next level of confidence, and they have the passion, but they just don't have the confidence because they don't have an aiming method or whatever. Because usually it's because of their own definition of trad, and just trying to break some of those definitions and saying, if you explain to people, if you start with gapping, in about a year, that gap becomes instinctive. I don't care who you are. Your brain will start framing that up. But you got to start somewhere. You can't tell someone it's like throwing a baseball. Watch me throw a baseball. There ain't shit gonna happen down there. You got to have an aiming method.
I'm with I would argue that to the death. I agree with Cody, because I'm that guy. Like, guys are like, shoot in the dark and put a light down there. I've shot gaps so much, and we practice this, that I can now, because I've shot gaps so much, I'm not saying I'm going to drill the freaking chem light hanging up, but I'm going to be close, and in the dark I can't see where I'm aiming. So that's just muscle memory, whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is.
Right. But your brain can frame it, but we rarely, especially on the internet or the average opinion, we rarely frame it to that archer who's in that group that's ready to make that crossover to go, if you start gap, you can get to where you want to go. They'll say, hey, I want to shoot instinctive, and no one really gives them a path to get there, or at least a reasonable path. So there's a lot of people, I think, that shoot all year and then hang it up and pick up the wheelbow and go hunt. And then there's another group of compounders, and this is where I fit in, where you lose the passion for dropping. I don't know how long it had been since I'd shot a doe. I was like, I'm not going to shoot a doe with my compound. You lose that drive, and you go pick up a single string bow, and man, it's a doe's a trophy, right? In my mind, any animal with a single string bow is a trophy.
So
everything's exciting with that stick.
Yeah.
So if we narrow it down to people that, if they had to choose either a gun or a bow, so we're going to talk about just people that are going to bow hunt. Aaron's calling them purists. Now, out of that group, Cody, that you're talking about, how many of those guys are shooting a recurve and say that, what's a common effective range for compound these days? Like 50 yards? I mean, are guys shooting?
I'd say 50 is common, right? If you take away the elite on one end and the crappy on the other, the 50 is pretty average.
Is there 50 R20? Is it that common? Is it like the trad 20 and the compound 50? Okay.
Really? So so how many of those guys are saying, man, I'm not willing to give up that 30 yards, right? I don't want to let a buck or whatever walk at 40 yards and I can't shoot at it, right?
I don't think very many. This is going to get to be a touchy subject, which I'm quite sure I'm going to probably get hate mail over. I think some people grab a recurve for an excuse to not shoot anything. And it's funner. And I don't mean that like saying that if you're not going to kill anything, you might as well have fun not killing anything, and you can shoot stumps all day. And that's no shit. It's funner shooting a recurve. And if guys aren't overly successful with a compound or hunting, or they're in a bad state or a bad area, you choose it. It's an easier choice, in my opinion, or for what I've seen, because a stick bow is funner. And so they will grab that and levitate towards a stick compared to a compound, because it's just a funner thing to have in your hand. As far as guys, true, Aaron, you're going on a Dall sheep hunt. What are you taking? I am taking a recurve. Aaron, you're going on an ibex hunt. I'm taking the recurve. Okay, Aaron, it's the last day. You pay $20,000 for this Dall sheep hunt. I'm not Randy Cooling.
Right.
I'm not Randy Cooling. I'm not going to wait. I'll come again with a stick. Last day I'm grabbing a rifle. I'm not every hunt, but one, if I've paid that much money, you know, I'm going to put an animal on the ground and I'm going to grab a gun, probably. Not with every animal. There's a lot I've walked away from and I haven't. But with something like that price, I'm grabbing a recurve and I'm going to go to the last day. And if I can't get it done, then I might grab a gun, depending upon the animal. I think there's a high percentage of those guys, but a straight purist like Cooling, who's done probably $100,000 into sheep hunts on dull sheep and hasn't gotten one, that is a purist at the top level. He's not going to shoot it with a gun. And there's not many of them.
Yeah.
Did you get hit by lightning, Rob?
Oh yeah, the connection froze up. I thought I lost everybody. It I didn't get hit, but it was close.
It stayed smooth on my side, so I don't know what they're seeing on YouTube.
You're smooth anyways, buddy. So tell me about metal riser bows.
Yeah, Aaron.
Go ahead, Code.
Them soulless chunks of metal.
So here's the thing, and you know, Cody can dive in when I'm done, because he's been messing around with them a lot more than me. But I shot a buffalo when I started, and I had foam core carbon fetal limbs, basically. That I think they were X Tours is what they're called, from Hoyt. Spray painted them. Extremely forgiving limb, but I didn't know what I was doing. I just shot a stick, and that was it, right? I just, you know, I didn't have anything to go off of. And, you know, shot a ton of different wood bows, and wood bows are awesome. But as of late, you know, I'm looking for a higher level of durability and something I can tune more. And I don't mean like the weight stuff, like Cody screws around with weights a little bit more on the riser than I do. But meaning adjustability and tiller tuning and the arrow rest. I put a springy on there, and my first round with that stick, I shot a 188 and 20 targets 3D course, which is about as good as I can shoot. You know, I was able to micro tune. I micro tune a lot with, you know, I get unhappy if my bear shaft isn't grouping at 40 with my my broadheads and my field points. I can tiller tune. You know, I got a little bit of a downward release, which is bad. I can tiller tune that out. Which I like. You know, I can take pressure off one limb or the other. And I like the fact that I can beat a grizzly to death with it and not have to worry about it breaking. Same with, you know, the foam core carbon limbs. They're a little bit more robust from what I've seen. So I'm not telling everyone to go out and buy an aluminum riser bow. But what I am saying is cost effectiveness. And this isn't me, like, again, I'm not trying to sway everyone. This is common sense math, right? An aluminum riser bow is $300 to $400 for the riser for a high end or a good one. A set of limbs, you go with the X Tours, you know, like the higher end Hoyts, the Ukas, a bunch of other shit I can't remember that Cody can tell you about. You're $700 to $1,000 on the high end and $450, $500 for mid grade. So you're $800 for one of the more, I don't know, Cody, I would say $800 to $900 for probably one of the highest levels of performance you can get.
That's absolutely tip top, yeah.
Close. So when you look at that, $800 to $900, what are you gaining? So here's what I have found, and this is without talking to Cody that much. This is slow-mo filming. You gain recovery in your limbs. You shoot some with bows. You see the limb tips flutter for quite some time after you shoot. The carbon limbs I've been testing, no flutter, immediate recovery. When you pluck, that means they recover faster. So I believe Cody told me once, you can rip that thing off whatever way you want. It's probably still going to be close to the dot. Cody is right. That thing, I get one of those, whoa, Jesus, what did I just do? Oh, hey, it's still on the target. I'll be there. That's what you get with those limbs.
I got film of me shooting a hog a few weeks ago where I had to kneel down and shoot under the limbs of a tree, you know, and the arrow hit where it was supposed to. It was a lethal hit, but it was a terrible. I was out of alignment. I plucked the hell out of it, and it still put it right where it needed to be. So it's just a really, really forgiving design and really cheap to customize, so that you know what to go to your wood bow when you're ready and spend that money. And, you know, Aaron brought up the $700 to $900 range of limbs, but the reality is you can go buy $250 limbs, shoot primer gray on them, and they're going to outperform the top of the line wood bows, the $250 ILF lens. So it's you get a lot more performance. You get a lot of tunability. You don't get and I'll be the first to say this, you don't get the cool factor. You don't get, there's bows that inspire you to shoot, right? It's you don't get that, but you get a bow that shoots easy.
You're not going to walk into your garage and be like,
no,
yep,
you're not going to sit
I
in
am
the stand and stare at the
I
wood
am
grain.
trad. Yeah.
Well, I gotta say that would be like a blow up doll as opposed to dating a woman.
So here's the thing, and yeah, I was gonna say, I've always been able to pull chicks, so I've never had a blow up doll. I don't even know how to respond to that. So anyhow,
Snyder's speechless.
Well, some things you can't unhear, and I've got this blow up doll pictured in my, you, right? And I'm like, but
I didn't expect that analogy.
Well, now every time you go reach for that metal riser, just think about that. I mean,
this makes you think of a blow up doll.
Well, no, it's the analogy. That's what I'm hearing. It's you're the first one to say it's yeah. So,
all right. So yeah, it's easy. It's an easy transition, and and now we're getting into it. We released some video yesterday or the day before where we're taking high speed film of the arrows coming out of these bows, and I text Aron, the adjustability of center shot and being able to perfect that out of your own form. I think that's worth some lethality. I mean, I was not by choice, but I've been out the last 2 or 3 weeks with 46-pound limbs and really not seeing a big disadvantage running that light of a limb on hogs and larger animals because I've got that tune and I've got really fast arrow recovery. You're not having to shoot around a riser.
Yeah, and again, look, I shot the hell out of a widow and a wingert and a stalker. I don't have any issues with wood bows. I'm just being, as realistic as I can from my findings. And you're not going to be, I'm down there rattle canning with stencils, right? You're not picking wood grains and wood colors and shit, right? And veneers. I'm down there with a stencil from Amazon and 3 different colors of paint, throwing on some tiger stripe like I did in M4. So it's what you're into. But I will say, just shooting the other day, I there were some screenshots I got as far as, I guess you could say, hyperbole, some, maybe blown out of proportion of my shooting. And I thought, well, I'll just, I'll video it. And so at 38 yards, a little bit bigger than a quarter size group, and I shot an arrow. I kicked the arrow 3 times. I didn't shoot it in half, and I hit it with my first arrow, knocked it to the left, hit it again, knocked it to the left, and knocked it over with the third. That's micro tuning, right? I mean, that's as good as I can shoot, and as good as that bow can be tuned. And I like that. I get it. I understand people don't maybe think whatever. I filmed 17 times in a row to get that video, or whatever, it's fake. But what do I get out of faking it? If I fake it and I can't kill anything, it just shows I can shoot and I suck at hunting, or I faked it and I can't hit anything. I'm just trying to show people the ability, if you work at it, that you can get if you work really hard. And I'm not doing that as a bragging thing. I'm doing that as a, hey guys, this is possible. You can shoot. If you ever asked me if I could shoot consistent softballs at 40 yards with a recurve, I would have said you were crazy. But now, I mean, it's feasible if you put the effort in and pay attention.
Well, let me ask you, when we're talking carbon limbs and you're talking about recovery, from lateral twisting of limbs for your draw, don't you get the same thing when you get carbon limbs on a recurve or a longbow for that matter?
What now?
Can you restate that?
So you're talking about the recovery of the limbs, carbon limbs. Isn't it the same with a wood riser recurve with carbon limbs? Your recovery rate laterally of the limbs.
It's lateral torsion is what he's asking about, Aaron.
Yeah.
Torsional stability.
With the wood riser, the torsional stability is the same with the wood riser. I mean, you can get, obviously there's a little more variance in wood as far as in climates or possibly, but what you don't have with the wood riser, unless you order it custom, and even still some bowyers won't do it, you don't have a burger hole that you can thread a giant rod through with a elevated rest for, so before, when I needed to micro tune in and out, I was doubling up sticky tape and shit, right? Like I was doing all kinds of jerry rigging, where now I just screw it in and screw it out for micro tuning my in and out adjustment or left and right. But yes, you can do the same thing. You put whatever limbs you want on a wood bow.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was kind of getting at. It. Yeah, it's kind of what I was getting at, was that you were saying that was a big advantage to a metal riser bow was the lateral torsion of the limbs, but you can get the same thing out of a wood riser.
That's what you heard. Okay. I said the tunability out of the system I'm shooting, part of it is the limbs, the other part is the adjustability to the arrow rest.
Duly noted.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Like,
this is getting tense now.
No, I was just thinking if I said that would make no sense. It's like, hey, your hat will fit better if you wear better shoe size. That just doesn't make sense. But I get what you're saying. It's good you cleared it up. But it's the overall adjustment is what I was talking about was, the tiller tuning, on an ILF bow, which there's wood risers and metal. Also, the adjustability and the arrow rest. And I don't, Cody, as far as some of the stuff you do is different than me. I don't stack weights on the bow much. Right. Like Cody talks about the Satori's pretty light in the ass, and it is. It's stacking some weights on the, the riser, and that's not as much of a hunting thing. Like, not too many guys are really throwing too much weight on a hunting bow. But Cody screwed around with that a lot more than I have.
Yeah, I threw a weight on it and I balanced my bow, and that's why I usually shoot with an Arrow Master instead of a quiver, because I have my riser balanced. And you can adjust that almost endlessly, and you start throwing stabs on there, and quickly you can render yourself ineffective, as I've proven, by throwing B-bars on it and trying to drag that up a tree. So you've noticed my stabs and all of my weights have gradually gotten more compact, but I'm trying to get a bow that's more robust to bad shooting, because more often than not in hunting situations, you're not standing up in your perfect frame. You find yourself in less than ideal conditions trying to make a shot, and having a bow that's a little bit more robust to that can pay dividends in my mind.
Do you cant your bow at all when you shoot, Cody?
What is it?
Do you cant your bow when you shoot much?
I can cant my bow, but I typically hold it vertically. But like if I'm having to shoot on a blind or something like that, I can cant my bow and still shoot my shot.
Gotcha.
So like right now, a good way to look at this, and Tom Senior and I talk about this pretty frequently. Right now, who are the top two best shooters in the world with a single string bow? This is a question for Rob.
Come again. Top shooters in the world with a single string bow.
Top two shooters, or let's say two of the top 5 shooters in the world with a single string bow.
I have no idea. None.
Cody?
So Frederick Lundberg, right, is probably number 1. He won World Archery 3D, and he's at the top quite often. And then you've got John Dimmer, Dwayne Martin. Those guys are always up at the top as well. I don't know. Dillinger's doing good this year. Yeah, Dillinger.
Yeah. So, Rob, why do you think Cody knows that and you don't?
I'm not meaning to piss Cody off, but I'm all about hunting, and I'm not a lot about shooting. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
no, that is my point, right? This isn't like a hurt feelings podcast. This is Cody and I obviously pay attention to that. And so I think that kind of sums up everything that not sums up everything, a few of the things I wanted to cover. Rob, would you agree or disagree that basing some of your shooting stuff off of the best in the world is bad, good, or indifferent in a hunting situation?
We walked me right into a.
Yeah, he did.
There.
Yeah, you're right into the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Let the paint dry for a little while, Rob. Don't step out.
That's awesome.
I'm only 20 feet from my wood risers right now. I can I've got Osage, you name it.
True. I mean, this is a learning podcast. I want people to think about this.
No, it's a great point.
Do you think, because I see with this shit, people talk about Cody, okay? And probably me too. They just don't say it to my face. Is you're not shooting at foam. You're shooting at an animal. Truth be told, the first thing I told Cody is not first thing, and Cody will tell you this, and I'm pretty open. I said, Cody, nobody's going to listen to shit you say until you start laying animals on the ground, because no one's going to care. Right? That's right. And Cody's got thick skin, and I do too. He tells me whatever. And so my point is God forbid the voice of reason step into play, and we all get along. We all learn to hunt and shoot better. Makes sense to me, right? Like, do we have to say, Cody, I don't care, we're not shooting foam, right? And I see guys do it all the time. And generally those are guys that may not be able to shoot as well, but they're killers, which is awesome. And there's nothing wrong with that crowd. Then you have guys that may not be as effective of killers, but are great shooters. God forbid we combine those two and we all become more effective. But no, let's all just stand in our corners and talk shit about everyone else, which is generally what happens.
You see this, Cody? Aaron can't see it. You see where I'm at? I'm backed into a corner right here.
You know, and there's for some reason there's a belief that 3D archery or the competitive archers can't hunt. And what I tell people is you only have so much vacation time available, right? If you want to go be a killer and knock down 15 to 20 animals a year, you're not going to a lot of 3D shoots. Now, if you want to go be the best in the world at shooting, you're going to go to 5, 6 3D shoots. And but I can guarantee you, because Aaron did give me that feedback last year. It's one of the first things he said. I'm sitting here this year with 8 animals down in 2020, and we haven't really got into any heavy hunting. And I'm using the same method of aiming I do in 3D. So it's just about what you're comfortable with, and for me, that precision gives me confidence.
But Cody, I'm going to interrupt. It's on the other side of the fence here. I would say you have learned things hunting that are made it you better, just like that a hunter might learn things shooting tournaments that will make him better.
That is absolutely fair, yeah.
And so I think, you know, my point to this, when Rob, I backed you in a corner, you don't pay attention because you're a hunter and you don't care. You have no reason to care, right? You go out and shoot. You've been successful your entire life, right? I mean, hunting, right, Rob? I mean, you've done it since you're a kid. There is validity to that. I'm a hunter. That's it. I'm a hunter. Why do I care what John Dimmer does? Well, I care what John Dimmer does because he's one of the best in the world, and I don't want to suck. That's why I pay attention. I'm like, what's Dimmer doing? What's Dillinger doing? Or some of these other guys. Now, I may not take it all, but I think that I understand for good reason. There's going to be people that dislike myself or Cody for whatever reason, things we say. But at the heart of it or the root of it is to try to better archers, right? Whether they become better shooters, that in turn become better hunters, or become better hunters and then later on become better shooters. The bottom line is you're becoming better. You don't have to listen to, to Cody, or you don't have to listen to Rob, meaning there's probably people listening to this podcast right now and half are going, that's right, Rob. F those guys. You're a hunter. And then there's going to be a group of guys, the other half, that are like, yeah, screw Rob. Cody and Aaron are right. Rob doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't want to tune. Well, how big a Jesus, don't you think maybe we should just all try to get along? And I'm not a kumbaya guy, but it just seems like maybe, just maybe, we could all kind of join together and be better.
Well, I think that there's only a third of the people listening on my side because everybody on my side is old and they're in bed by now.
Yeah. Well, it's truly if you're wanting to, and I've gotten to know Dimmer a little. I didn't think I'd actually get along that well with Dimmer in the beginning, but through commonalities of other things, he's a very, he's pretty set in his ways, just like anyone of his level are going to be. But if I have a question on shooting, Rob, I'm probably not going to go to you. And if I have a question on hunting, Rob, I may go to you, right? That you pick your poisons. And so if I have a question about being the best shooter I can be, I'm probably not going to talk to somebody that's the best hunter, because he may not be, it's not, one's not, I guess you'd say, mutually exclusive of the other, or they are. I'm going to go to the best shooter. I'm going to take what advice I can from him. I'm going to go to the best hunter. I'm going to take advice from him. I'm going to combine those two to hopefully become more effective myself. And that's what I think this podcast specifically does really well at, meaning Rob's, is you kind of pick and choose from all sides, and people can learn. Because Cody, for example, a lot of the things you're doing is to learn better lethality, right? Like what broadhead is more lethal, what arrow weight, what limb combo. Would you say that's your goal?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not to score higher.
Rob, you do the podcast, other than entertainment and everything else, is for people to get enjoyment out of archery, become better hunters, correct?
Absolutely. And to that, I would say that I was not prepared for the amount of younger people, and you and I talked about that today on the phone, that I have a tough time relating to. So now I try to mix it up and have the old guys on and have the high tech guys on, but I'm still trying to learn how to mix the two, to be honest. I mean, honestly.
Well, I mean, you're doing good, and you're doing good with it. My end, right? Like, if people see what I do with the stick and they decide to pick one up, it's a win-win. Whether they shoot a wood bow or as long as they're not shooting a crossbow, I really don't care what they do. Unless they're handicapped and whatever, leave it out. My thing in everything I've done, photography and everything else, I try to become the best photographer that I can by learning from the best photographers out there. There's going to be photographers that are wildlife photographers. Probably aren't going to be as good at portrait photography. I'm going to have to start sucking everything up. What happens with the big penis sport of traditional archery is you'll have a guy who's a killer, and he's not going to like Cody. Well, I mean, I know this to be true because I see it all the time in screenshots, and they're going to pick apart what Cody does and say it's not foam. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you shoot at a 3 if you can't kill an animal. All true. But there's no way that specific person is going to convince me that if he wasn't a more effective shot, he wouldn't be a more lethal hunter. It makes no sense. It's stupid. I mean, it just is. If you can become a more effective shooter and you're already a good hunter, you're going to become an even better hunter. And so even though I even poke fun of Cody, what he does, I think, is important, just like what you do is important, Rob. It is important to become more effective. Now, are you going to listen to everything Cody says? Probably not.
You should. You definitely should.
But, yeah, I mean, of course. But there's going to be parts and pieces things that Cody does or Rob does or whatever that you're going to want to listen to. Like Rob, we talked about blood trailing the other day. That guy said that he would have never found his animal if we wouldn't have talked about blood trailing. That's what this is all about. And I mean, Cody, when we hunted, when I flew off what did you learn when we hunted together, whether it be from me or Scott?
I mean, a lot of things, all the way down to breaking up the animal. But in terms of tracking, it was more post-shot, I would say, other than the debacle of me trying to spot and stock. I'd never spot and stocked anything other than the crawdad prior to that. But post-shot, it was a lot. And, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, this is what I'm talking about. Cody didn't need any help pre-shot. There was nothing Cody needed help with because he's a good shooter. Post-shot is what I was leading up to. So go ahead, dude.
Right. No, yeah, it's and even, as recent as last weekend, killing animals with Bish, you're talking about a guy who's he doesn't give me the exact number. It's probably around 500 or so animals the guy's taken. And tracking blood with him is next level. You learn a lot whenever you're tracking with guys like that. It was the same way, except even more extreme because of the cliffs, the way you guys were tracking, that Aoudad and knowing what that Aoudad was doing. And my biggest liability now as a hunter is becoming a decent witness, because I'm the world's best liar when I hunt. I could shoot that Aoudad, turn to Aron and say, that was a bad shot, pass a polygraph. He's like, you're absolutely lying. No, it was a good shot. I saw it. What I'm trying to work on is to know what happened after the shot. That's my biggest liability right now, because you just can't believe a word I say. But
that's not
comes in time.
Yeah, that's not unique to you, man. I've been with some really good hardcore hunters that your mind will lie to you at the moment of truth sometimes, because you're holding your stuff together to drop the string, and then it's immediately this release happens. You're like, well, he ran over here, right? And then you're like, well, dude, why do I have blood over here, moron?
Right.
Yeah, that's not unique to you.
So yeah, post shot was definitely the biggest learning, and also for me, animal behavior and reading the animals is I've learned a lot this year just hunting. I've only hunted so far hogs, Aoudad, and turkey, but knowing when to break the shot is key with a recurve. And people hack on me for shooting 46 pounds. It's nice to be able to draw and hold for a long period of time, and that's enabled me to drop a few more this year. But yeah, I'm learning a lot. I mean, up to last weekend, I sat in a blind and sweat at London Oaks for 3 days, in the dirt, 3 days. Last day, last hour, I was trying to get an oryx for my in-laws to get some meat. And the last day, the last hour, I finally get a shot opportunity. And who hunts in a blind with a 66-inch bow? Me. That's a genius for you right there.
Cody Greenwood.
So yeah. So, and then at the end of the hunt, I'm shocked that I failed. I'm still around like, I can't believe I didn't do well. And people ask, well, how long was the bow? And I'm like, well, it was 66 inches. Like, Jesus Christ, you're an idiot. I'm like, well, yeah.
Cody.
So, there's things you got to learn.
That's why you can't the bow.
Yeah, right. A lot. It's 66 inches.
Well, yeah, that's why you got.
So I'm learning. I'm definitely learning.
Well, and I wanted to be fairly strategic with this podcast. I thought about it a lot, like, kind of walking everyone into corners was my point with Cody was I didn't need to there was no instruction needed on shooting with Cody, and he held his crap together. It was after the shot, and that was some of the flack I've seen Cody get or behind closed doors that he hasn't shot enough. Well, you held it together for the shot. You did fine. I think after that, because of experience, you're a higher level of experience with shooting than you are with, obviously that's gain, when you're putting more animals on the ground and you're doing your due diligence, right? You're like, yeah, there's validity to that. I need to put some animals on the ground, learn more stuff, experience more, mountain hunts. And at least you took it like a man and said, yeah, I need to do that. Well, there's some people that aren't great shots that may want to take it like a man and learn to shoot better, too, and they're great hunters and know what to do post shot. And so I think you can learn a lot from both sides. So I not to be a Cody leg humper, I admire the fact that you're like, yeah, I better do that, and owned up to it. And now you're putting a lot of animals on the ground, learning a bunch.
I am learning about, and I completely, because I was pissed off when you said that. Of course, people say, you're like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and then you try it, and the reality is I've undervalued that, and not just animals, because I've been shooting whitetail since I was young, and I use the term whitetail ignorant, and I caught so much hell for that. But I was talking about myself. If you've hunted whitetail your whole life, defining as you've driven within 300 yards of your stand, climbed up in your stand, took a nap, woke up, there was a deer there, shot it, climbed down, drag it out. If that's been hunting to you for the last 20 or 30 years, like it was for me, then I've got no business talking about Western hunting, because it's completely different, right? Or hunting Aoudad, or even shot placement as far as that goes. And I think whitetail ignorance for me was a big problem. And like just going out and being exposed to different animals, whether it be an axis that, jumps the string at 4 times the rate of a whitetail, or hogs. And getting exposed to that has been really good. The upside to all of this, there's the Robs of the world, the Codys of the world, and we've been shooting for a long time. I was out hunting with Cameron and Blake. They're half our age. At half our age, they have twice the knowledge and 4 times the open mind approach to hunting and traditional archery. So I think, I really do. I think the next generation, because they have all the videos, they have the coaches, they have these podcasts, I really think the next generation is going to be a lot better than we have been, and definitely the generation before us.
Well, that's where I want to jump in and say, most of what I say, I'm joking around, right? I like joking around, and Cody, what you do, I spoke to when I started this podcast, I thought it was just going to be the old guys. And then when the younger crowd comes in, and I kind of like, what are you guys doing? Why are you getting so technical? But that's who they are, right? So a guy like you and what you do is invaluable to that group, well, to all of us, but to that group, because that's what they know, right? The Camerons and Blakes of the world. So, I mean, what you do, even from where I sit in this corner right here, literally, no, it's solid, man. And I do appreciate it, but I'm still gonna chat.
No, I think it's fun at this point. I mean, I think we've got a good environment, but there are some pretty toxic areas when trad, but I do think this next generation is really good, much better off than we were. And if you think about it, we're all old enough to remember, Masters of the Barebow. That was a lightning rod. I remember when 3 under wasn't trad. Like just hearing Aron at the beginning of the episode saying carbon arrows are acceptable. I remember when they weren't. I remember when going from split to 3 under got you razzed at the Michigan Archery Club.
I do not remember that.
But that's that carbon arrows were a big non-trad thing for a long time as well. And I think it's just, I remember when gap shooting, when Rod Jenkins introduced it on Masters of the Barebow 3, it changed archery for me, trad archery. It made me be able to shoot better, but there were people that hated gap and it was controversial, whereas now it's accepted. So we just have a really long acceptance curve, but that's changing and getting more narrow and more narrow as you see the Jenkins of the world. You see Cooling speaking up, and he's got a lot of animals on the ground. Aron, raised rest weren't trad until you started shooting a raised rest. So it's the rate of change is happening faster now than before. So that's leaving a better sport behind us for sure.
Well, I mean, the one thing that the unique perspective that I have on this is, I came from the compound side, and when I say that, that's not that unique, but a pretty, high level in shooting, a fairly high level, knowing people in the, the industry, and kind of the flow of it, right? And the thing that I looked at with stick bow guys, I've said many times, was, they can't hit the bail at 20 yards. Why would I shoot that thing? Rogan gives me crap about it all the time. Why do you want to be less accurate? Why would you pick up a stick bow? That's not a good, if you go into a Catholic church preaching Catholicism, you're going to have probably a false sense of hope that everybody's agreeing with you. They're all Catholic. No one's going to disagree. My big goal, my thing, is showing people you can be as accurate, making the sport a much larger sport, making that circle 10 times bigger than it is now by showing people that you can be accurate, you can be effective, all these different things. Well, you take if you take a 25-year-old kid today, right, and you've got a stick bow in a compound, he's at an archery range. You've got Levi Morgan, John Dudley, Gillingham, McCarthy, Randy Omer, right? You've got all these pinnacles, these people to look at, to emulate. There's not that in the traditional archery world. You have to search much, much, much harder to find those people to emulate. so it's a harder sell. And that's the thing now where you're seeing and more guys shoot a stick bow. You're seeing more and more accuracy. And I think that's important. And Rob, I kind of get it. I'm always kind of curious what the grasp is of maybe some of the crew you hang out with. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you hated me when you first saw me on Gritty picking up the recurve, didn't you?
No, I wouldn't say I hated you because I did enjoy Gritty at the time. Well, your half of the Gritty, because honestly, I never was on the same plane with Brian, but it was all that came with it. And honestly, I mean, it was all the, the supplements and the clothing and the gear. I mean, it was everything in the fitness. And it was like, what the hell? We've been killing elk.
I just want to let you know I'm walking you into something right now. So I'm just
I know.
To walk you into another corner.
Sheep to slaughter. Hey, I told you this
who was compared to? First of all, Rob told me you were giving something away to me, and that's why I should get on the call today. So I didn't know we were getting walked into. See, this was an ambush meeting, Rob. But it wasn't you or me against each other. Go ahead.
No, that's legit, man. But like I said, I am quick at the mouth, and then I'm good at eating crow on when it needs to be. You know what I mean?
Well, and having said that, I consider as far as closet friends, meaning obviously we all don't hang out. I consider you two two of the closer people friends I have in the traditional archery side of things, and we can all make fun of each other. And that's one of the things with Rob, I do get a kick out of it, because you'll say something and a week later they're like, maybe I was wrong.
Man, you should talk to my wife.
Well, when you look at the amount of people, the amount of hate mail I got on the Gritty side of things, which I'm deserving of some of it for sure. When Gritty and I started, was this young comer, thinks he knows everything. I mean, Dustin Newer blasted me. I mean, I've called this guy out multiple times. I think we get along now. Guy shoots a mule deer 40 yards. What the hell does he know? He's horrible. And I'm like, whatever, right? I mean, but the younger generation, not the 50-year-old guy that's been shooting a stick for his whole life, right? He's already shooting a stick, and he gets along with all his other 40 to 60-year-old stick guys and talk shit. Cody and I are stupid. We don't know what we're talking about. That's great. How many 25-year-old kids are listening to that guy? Rhymes with hero.
Oh, yeah.
Not me.
Oh, yeah.
Zero. So when you talk about the supplements and the working out and the tech side of things, God forbid we get more younger generation into the stick bow community. And that was a way to do it.
Let me stop you though. Was that your plan from the beginning? When you picked it up, was that day one your plan?
Oh, no, hell no. My plan was to show everybody that I could kill something. Because I wish I would have screenshot all the messages I got.
Yeah, I'll bet
you're a shitty hunter. You'll never kill anything. You're using technology. And lo and behold, they find something else to complain about. Oh, you get to hunt more. Oh, you do this. Oh, okay, I got it. Whatever, I get it. So, but my point is once I picked it up and I learned, I was wrong. This is cool. This shooting a stick is cool. That's when it transferred over to, I know why young guys don't shoot a stick, because I was one of them. I know why I was poking fun of stick bow hunters. I all of those things. And I thought, I know how I can get a lot of people into this. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what most stick bow guys have been doing. And I'm going to talk about technology. I'm going to talk about fitness. I'm going to talk about things like that. And I think it's worked. I mean, it seems to be working. And when I saw Cody come on board, I'm like, that's not going to be well received, but it is going to be, helpful, right? When you first started about feathers and veins and shit, right? When you did and everybody's like, well, Cody said whatever.
What's the least controversial thing I could do? I'm like, I'll do feathers. No one will get mad about that. Jesus. Yeah. And then the damn trad veins won it out, and I might as well sat in an electric chair.
Slept with your sister. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and here's the thing. I went off at Tom Clum. I shot 3 5-inch feathers. And then the feathers were a problem, and I knew that from the beginning. Stock up on a 180-inch mule deer, rub your feathers against your pant leg, and tell me feathers are a good idea, because they're not. They're loud when they rub against nylon pants. But Cody did that. Guys are like, what do you think? The Trad Lab did this. Rocky Mountain's like, dude, we've shaved more 5-inch feathers off of arrows this week than who you could shake a stick at. Everybody's going to these small ones, and guys are asking me, what do you think? And I'm like, hey, look, I shoot 5-inch feathers. Jesus would come down and tell me to take them off. I'm confident with them. And then they're like, is it true that you can do this? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. You can get away with less fletch on the back end. But I said, for me, I want to know, and not just by mathematics and testing, I just want to feel warm and fuzzy about it. And if I got half a chicken wing on the back of my arrow and that makes me feel better, that's what I'm going to shoot. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. And there's nothing wrong with putting 4 3-inch, feathers on your arrow. Shoot what's comfortable to you.
But the double standard is hilarious, because those guys would write me and they're like, Cody, I use the 5-inch feathers for those short shots, so my arrow stabilizes faster. And then we release high-speed footage of arrows coming out of a metal bow 5 yards away, and they're recovering so much faster. But that's something they're not going to do. So it's just odd. And we didn't have a voice for that before. You're not going to go to Trad Gang and talk about cutting 5-inch feathers off without and get that message across. It's tough. It's getting easier.
Well, and Rob, how much of this stuff were you joined in on the anti-Cody and Aron side of things a little bit, and how much were you mid-road, and how much? I'm curious, just because, like you said, we got 3 different demographics here. How much of that stuff were you listening to? Because when Cody said that, for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not shaving my feathers off. I'm not taking 5-inch feathers off.
I'm pretty quick to eat crow when it needs to be eaten, for sure. I was shaving my. So yeah, I was and I was on board with you. Were doing pretty quick when I saw you killing all that stuff too. No, I don't have a 5-inch feather anymore. They're all gone. I was down to testing.
He's a closet continuous improvement proponent. He's going to do it secretly.
Well, if you remember, I even posted. I was testing colors. Inspired by you. Yeah. I found those yellows flew way better than the whites. They were all in the bullseye.
Well, I the same kind of a thing. Mine's about, tuning too, obviously, as far as like, feathers adjust tuning and weights and everything, but meaning when I tune a bow, I had tested and Cody and I had talked, or it might've been Zernzak, but I think it was you and I, and my findings were the same as yours, pretty much top to bottom. Was that you I talked to, Cody, or Zernzak?
Yeah, it was. Well, I don't know if we had that conversation. You may have had it with Zernzak as well. Matt and I were going through it.
Yeah, so it was one of those deals where I agreed, but I was like, the one thing that I, with my arrow setup, shooting shooting smaller and smaller feathers, it does help shooting a higher FOC to steer you can get away with more steering, it seems like, with a little bit heavier point. Not extreme, I'm not talking about extreme, but the one thing I was worried about when I shot feathers was, man, if these things get wet, is it, and this was bro science in my own mind, is it going to help? Because I didn't have a high FOC arrow, because I had a heavy arrow and just decent or average FOC. Is that feather, if it's a little bit wet, going to help stabilize? Because I got a little bit more on there than it would if I had a shorter one and got wet and was flatter. And so when the Trad bait came out, it was an easy decision. I'm like, I'm going to end up shooting for 3-inch, and which is what I did, and that which is what groups the best all around. But if you went on Trad Gang and asked about any of that, Denny Sturgis was he was just on there arguing in my favor. Guys are like, he's full of shit. He's shooting an elevated rest. They don't shoot off the shelf. Well, a couple $100,000 worth of Trad vanes proves that wrong. They shoot off the shelf just fine.
I'm amazed.
My thing was,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm amazed
No,
how
no,
many
go.
people are still. Yeah, go ahead. I'm amazed how many people still ask, "Hey, can you shoot those off the shelf?" It's like, wow, we're still doing this. Yeah.
You, my thing, and I've talked to Cody at pretty great lengths of this. Is I'm a tester, right? I got a Cody can tell me, Jesus can tell me, and Joseph Smith can tell me, and it doesn't mean anything unless I go do it. I gotta try it. Was the elevated rest? Guys were asking, how do the trad veins perform off an elevated rest? Is it an improvement over a standard vein off an elevated rest? Because you can get away with other veins off an elevated rest. And my finding was feather or vein, didn't matter. An elevated rest was more forgiving by far. Like not even in the same ballpark, not even in the same sport, way more. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to an elevated rest. Like it's just cleaner because I'm grouping, right? And I did this by hand and off a shooting machine. You couldn't tell as much off a shooting machine. It was pretty clean, but when you get human error in there, the elevated rest won out, and I shoot an elevated rest. Now, it didn't have anything to do with the trad vein, which that's what, the old crusties chalk it up to, right? He shoot an elevated rest because he's lying about the trad vein. No, Slick. There's videos of me shooting off the shelf at 100 yards with a trad vein with my feathers. So my thing is accuracy, lethality. The elevated rest is way better. And Cody, you've proven that time and time again, are a huge proponent of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're trying to fight. What's odd about the traditional archery community is the average opinion is so different from the correct opinion. And usually whenever you collect the average opinion, it's usually more accurate than in terms of theory. Like in compounds, for example, that community doesn't argue that a better shot makes you a better hunter. In trad, that's still a debate. Like being able to hit what you're aiming at. Like how the hell is that a debate? And even right now, I'm working with lethality, and the last podcast we just released, and the testing I'm doing right now is not challenge. It is challenging Ashby's rules, but it's not like I'm invalidating. I'm just diving a little bit deeper into some of these, like arrow flight, the quality of arrow flight, and how critical that is. And people get really worked up, and these guys with 30% FOC get worked up when I say, man, I don't really see anything past 18. But the average opinion seems to be very different from reality. And I always tell people the recipe for a good trad lab is interview people that kill a lot of game. There's about 5 that I interview. Then you look at the internet and look at the average opinion. And when there's a gap, you study there. And that's where what we're trying to do is close that average opinion and get it closer to reality. And it's hard for me to be wrong in my studies because I start with the subject matter experts. I don't start with a little computer in a corner. I start by interviewing people. Frederick Lundberg runs the 4x90 Fletch, right? Tim King was running the 4x90 Fletch. Those were the subject matter experts that started that. And then you work your way into it. And it's just amazing to me how in our little bitty culture, which I really like our community, but we have this huge disparity between the average opinion and reality. And I don't understand what causes that. I mean, we have people right now that almost have the average opinion established that a heavier arrow that you don't lose on the trajectory side. I've been asked to do that study. I'm like, you want me to study a full-blown statistical designed experiment on if heavier arrows drop more? And they said, yeah, we don't think they do. Well, you're out of your mind. That's the trade-off. If you're going to run a heavy arrow, it's going to drop more, and you're going to have to know your yardage. I'm not going to. Why would I study that? It's gravity.
I'm still stuck on when you said the average opinion opposed to the correct opinion. I love that.
Right. So here's the thing, though. I heard you laughing. So when you define correct opinion, okay. Is blue better for a vein, or is neon yellow better for a vein, or pink? That's debatable on what the human person can see, each person, right? Individual. Is Swarovski better than Leica? Those are all debatable. Is a elevated rest more forgiving than off the shelf. And that is not debatable. It is more forgiving.
It shouldn't be debatable.
And so I understood what Cody was saying is the things he's talking about are not debatable.
Well, yeah,
Rob,
it was his choice. It was his choice of words.
Yeah.
Correct and opinion don't really belong together. And he's so analytical, he should have known that. And I think you need to back him into a corner. I've been in like 3 corners. He's only been in one.
What I'm learning is like on the first 2 trad labs, I don't think reached people. I wasn't as effective as I should be. On the third one, when we did the string silencer study, what made that effective wasn't the quantitative stuff. To your point, Rob, people don't care about my analytical skills, right? It wasn't the graphs and the sound meters that made people believe that, because they accepted that one more than they did any of the others. It was the fact that I took 13 experienced hunters, had them on the other side of the curtain, and they couldn't tell the difference. And I think, so a lot of my studies are leaning more toward, instead of quantitative, I'm being more practical and graphical, just like the high-speed film that we're doing now. So people can see it and observe it, and it becomes more empirical to them, and they can accept it faster. Bar graphs and charts don't do a lot for people.
Rob, in your defense, it's hard to back Cody into a corner. He's smarter than I am. You and I, we're neck and neck, so I can weasel it in there, but Cody's smarter than I am, so it's harder to back him into a corner. But
I just spent a week with Bill from Iron Will, so sometimes you got to be smart enough just to be quiet. That guy is next level. So everybody thinks. I started a debate with him, and it lasted 3.6 seconds, and he's like, "That's not how physics works." I'm like, he's right. So I'm done.
Well, when you brought up, oh yeah, he is. When you brought up like FOC to me, I think that my findings and yours were the same. I'm like, man, right. Anything around 18 to 23 is about the same. After that, I don't really notice a difference. Like, you get above 18 or around 18 for a stick bow, you're good. You know, that's pretty happy. And after 23, I really saw diminishing returns in multiple different things, tuning being one. Like you can get enough FOC in a bow, you ain't getting a knock high tear out of your bow unless you could killer it out of there. They tear knock high, and a lot of the times you get a spaghetti string effect coming out of the bow with well, Cody and I didn't talk about that. One thing I noticed with Extreme, the paradox is literally so crazy coming out of the bow that it can hurt penetration because your arrow takes a little bit more to stabilize before to recover.
It's when you ran that slow footage of me shooting. Remember that? Because I went and changed spots.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Because I was getting a good tune with the 400, and I'm like, God, 2 things have to happen, because you showed me that video. I'm like, I got to lose freaking weight, and 2, I got to get a stiffer spine arrow. And delete that damn video, right?
Well, when I was shooting, the one thing I noticed when I was shooting some animals close up out of a tree stand, I had 2 bow setups. I had one with like 28% FOC. I was not getting pass-throughs close up like I was I think it was 19 or 20%. I was zipping through them. We're talking, sub 10-yard shots. That was because of what I thought. And of course, you can't really prove this. Like shooting an animal hanging doesn't prove that much to me compared to shooting an animal walking or, in the field, kicking after you shoot, shit like that. That my arrow flight was still clean out of the 18 to 20%, which is where I try to stay at sub 23. And at 23, just because of my system and setup, that's about where it always ends up, is 18 to 23. I was zipping right through them because sub 10 yards, I had unbelievable arrow flight. Well, with Extreme, a spaghetti hitting the, even with, 350 grains up front, your arrow is still sucking penetration or losing momentum, flexing, going through the, through the animal.
Right. Yeah, that's actually what triggered a lot of the next study that we're diving into, that dynamic flex.
I'm gonna stop.
And how much that animal rolls.
I could tell in the tone of your voice.
What's up, Rob?
I could tell in the tone of your voice you were going to do it to me again. I said, I'm going to stop answering it.
No. With this, I would say you are the kind of guy that you've got one setup and you head out and kill stuff. You probably throw 175, 200 up front and you just roll out.
No, yeah, but I
Roughly.
tune my arrows pretty freaking tight as far as I'm concerned.
I'm definitely not saying that. Meaning, you FOC and all this other shit. You get a good flying arrow and you head out. You head out the door.
Correct.
There is zero wrong with that, in my opinion. If it's proven and it works, you're good to go. Don't argue it. But as you're listening to all this different stuff, that whether it's me and you talking or Cody or whoever, right? Have you thought about changing your system, or are you confident in your system?
No, I'm not changing.
Okay. Why would you? And that's my point when guys are like, I disagree with you. I've shot this forever. And I'm like, well, you've been doing this 20 years. What the hell you listen to me for? You don't need my advice. Your shit's dialed, brother. Like, call it good. But getting the younger generation in, they are more techie. And they dig into this stuff both feet and they love it.
Yes. And those are the questions that I field. I mean, I get questions on Instagram quite often, and I will field the very basic ones, technically speaking, arrow spine, point, weight, draw length, all that stuff. I will field the very basic questions because that's my realm. Like when you guys are doing what you do, Cody and the push and you're at another level. And when I get those guys asking me questions, I'm like, buddy, you need to, here's Cody's address, or here's, Aron's, Randy Cooling. It's just not in my wheelhouse. So it is a little bit mind boggling. Like that explains some of it, because I'll go, dude, it's not that difficult. Right. That's where I get it. Like, it's not that difficult. Right or wrong, that's where I come up against.
Well, I don't think that that's right or wrong. I think I think it's both or none of the above. Like, I don't know, Cody, you probably wouldn't argue with this. I wouldn't think if a guy has a lethal setup, and it works for him, don't listen to me or don't listen to Cody. But if you are one of those guys that's constantly perfecting or tinkering, okay, yeah, then screw around, change, whatever. But I think that you would be hard pressed to get for me to believe from my own personal experiences that extreme FOC is a good thing. When meaning as a whole, like when you look at tournament archery, hunting, and everything else, I think a good amount of FOC is a good thing. I think a good weight of an arrow is a good thing. Do I think an extreme FOC is a good thing? I do not. I don't recommend it. I tell people not to do it. There's a number you should stick with and stay. The tuning issues are a problem. Going to a pro shop and having them set up is a huge problem, and everybody ends up hating me. And I'm like, look, dude, like you throw 250 up front on your arrow, you're good, right? I mean, that's plenty of FOC. And for me, if a guy's got 50 to 100 grains of components and he's got 150 to 200 grain broadhead, he's in good shape, like for a stick bow. And I don't know if Cody's found that or not. We haven't talked about that too much. It's just, that's what I found from my own dealings. And so when guys ask me like, hey, I got on Archer's Advantage and it said this. Well, Archer's Advantage isn't really prepared for a guy shooting 300 plus grains up front on his arrow. It's a computer program. That's experimentation. And sometimes I'm like, dude, you're going plat. Like, FOC is important, but Jesus on his throne, like you don't need to throw 400 grains on the front of your arrow. Like, you don't have to do that. And I don't, Cody, what have you found for your happy medium?
No, I mean, we're still working on that, but it just makes, when people come to me with extremes like that and they're having trouble tuning, the first thing you do is let's get the balance of the arrow in, and they're for some reason they think that that's what they need for lethality, because I think as you're coming into recurves, everyone questions lethality. I was just telling Matt this morning. I would take a traditional archer inside 20 yards. I would take a traditional archer that's killed several animals over an average compound hunter within 20 yards. The lethality handicap is not that big. I'm blown. I mean, I've got pass-throughs on hogs this year where the arrow's skipping off the ground behind them with a 46-pound recurve. Our lethality is very, very good, and you don't need, 400. You don't need 28 to 32% FOC. I'm seeing that myself. I had a 1-hour conversation today on the phone with some Ashby folks around that, and it does make it very critical to tune, and it's very difficult to get arrow flight in. So I'm always trying to guide people back to that 175. Or the only reason I'm using 200 grain buffs on those iron wills is because the ferrule is just a little bit bigger, and it gets me to a weight where I can start comparing it to some of the other trad heads. But yeah, tuning comes first, and I would put our lethality inside 20 yards, especially with hunting experience in play. I would pick the recurve guy with hunting experience any day over the average compound hunter within 20. And that's the biggest story I can tell people that are crossing over, because they don't want to go out there and give up lethality. You're not giving up lethality with a recurve. If you can hit what you're aiming at, you're going to, if anything, because we use a little bit heavier arrows, you're going to be surprised at how well you can drop animals, and how many times you get a second chance at shooting them, and how fast they drop. I mean, I think this year I've had 2 animals that didn't know they were shot. One was a pig that I shot twice. He had no idea it was hit. Walked a 10-yard circle, hit him again, walked a 10-yard circle, and bedded down and died. You don't get those opportunities with compounds very often.
If you would have told me that 10 years ago, Cody, like in a general archery shop, there would have been a long drawn out argument and conversation of there's no way a stick bow guy is going to be more lethal than me inside of 20 or 30. And I'm a little farther out than you. Like I think I'm more lethal inside of 30 with the stick than I was with a compound.
Right.
Just effective range and quick shooting and everything else. I'm eating a significant amount of crow in my life, even saying that out loud. But what I've learned, my first thing in that first year was penetration with contact broadheads. I'm zipping through animals that I didn't pass through with an 85-pound compound with a mechanical. Like I'm zipping through animals, I'm like, good God, wow, that was luck, I guess, huh? I didn't hit anything important. Well, I've shot, several now where enough animals now where I've got a good, backlog of data where I'm like, holy moly, this thing is crazy lethal. And, now, and Jeff Lander told me many times when I first started, I'd say, I could have killed it with a compound, dude. And he's like, man, eventually that'll go away. And it has. I don't say that anymore. My thing now is really like the only time and again, I'm eating crow saying this, where the compound is more effective for the most part, 90+% of the time is distance, which a lot of times is hunting skill. And that goes right along with all the guys that said I suck when I initially started picking up the stick bow, is where the compound comes into play. Is definitely when we crawl in and there's an elk feeding at 85 yards, yeah, of course the compound, for me and other guys that shoot that far, the compound's more lethal. I can shoot 85 yards and hit what I'm aiming at with a compound. But when you talk about, the hunting skills and everything, inside of 30 and pushing 40, but definitely 30 for me, I would pick me with a stick bow. In almost every situation, you're a faster shot. That's the biggest thing, in game that, if you like the mule deer in Alberta last year was sub 20. And that's one that I wouldn't have had the issues I had with a stick bow if I would have had a compound, just the wind and everything else would happen. But, overall, I try to tell guys like, dude, I will show you, I promise you. If I'm shooting against a compound guy like Luke, who I would say Luke is above average shooter. He's not a great shooter, but he's not a crappy shooter. If I'm staying within 5 points of him on a 20 target 3D course, how can you argue from the compound stakes? How can you argue that, inside of 30, I wouldn't be more effective, and others as well with a recurve, and getting that point across, because I had such a tainted overview or outlook on stick bow guys. I think all of us are doing a very good job at turning that around. Most of us anyway are doing a good job at that.
Well, and that's the number one question for crossovers, right? They don't want to give up what they believe is that lethality. And after you hit a few animals with these things, and you realize that you're not really giving up anything inside that range. There is something to be said for being able to draw and hold, for long periods of times, but making contact, hitting what you're aiming at is the key. Right? That's a good tuned arrow.
Now I'm talking too much, and I'm going to apologize to everybody listening that's going to say Aaron should have shut up, but I'm going to bring up a good point here. For holding back, I would definitely, by far, without a doubt, I will trade that off for the fact the animal cannot hear that bow go off. So if I've got to choose holding a bow back for a minute or holding it back for 20 seconds and flipping that, meaning I can shoot at an animal 2 to 3 times before he knows what's going on, compared to holding my bow back for a minute, I tell you, Tom Clum told me multiple times, you will kill animals on your second and third arrow. He was not lying. They do not hear that bow go off. The reaction is totally different. Sometimes there's no reaction at all. So when guys ask me about that, I bring up, hey, you're not going to be able to hold your bow back. I shoot 60 pounds. I can hold it back for about 20 seconds. But you can miss things and shoot again, and sometimes they even come closer because they just do not know what direction it came from. And Rob, you're not saying much. What are you thinking about this conversation right now?
You know what I'm thinking? I'm listening to you, and I'm listening to some of what Cody says, not much, but no, and I'm hearing this is like all stuff I knew, meaning that people love it, like that people can get close, and that Cody says that the lethality, there's no loss in lethality under 20. And I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, I've known that. And I don't mean that arrogantly. Like, it's like, that's what makes it so great. This is what we've all known.
So here's my, my thing with that. And I am not including you into this rant I'm about to go on. And Cody, you can throw your 2 cents when I'm done. I've heard multiple people say that. They're like, hey, youngin', we knew that. All right, well, if you weren't such a dick at the archery shop, why didn't you convert more people? Well, I can tell you why, because I brought in there like, oh, training wheels. Oh, well, you're not even a real hunter. Oh, okay, that's really inviting, Slick. Well, yes, you knew that. You should have done a lot better job at explaining that, like, hey, brother, man, it is super lethal. Man, don't worry about that. Let me tell you about when I shot this elk back in whenever. But no, it was, and I understand some of it is just, and I get it. But if you're going to try and get a younger generation to switch over, you may not want to start off the conversation with you're a shitty hunter and you have training wheels on your bow. That's probably a bad way to introduce if I meet a guy and the first thing I do is like, oh, you're old as shit, you've got gray hair. Probably not the most welcoming invite to the beginning of a conversation. So telling a dude that, technology sucks and he's got training wheels on his bow may not be a way to convert over. And I agree with you, Rob, like 100%, I was blown away, like how lethal it is and all these different things. My thing is getting the younger guys to understand that politely, and kind of, all coming together with this stuff.
I have no doubt you are a lightning rod. I mean, I can't imagine what your, Instagram DM messages look like, but I've been doing the podcast since I think July of 18. I don't see the negativity. I'm not to say it's not there, but I don't hear the old crusties. I mean, very, very
like you,
seldom.
Rob.
What's that?
They like you.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
Cody, how much negativity do you get, Cody?
It's a lot. It's probably around 40% of the communications would probably be
you're
negative.
kidding me. So like people messaging you don't like what you're doing. I mean, aside from you and I, joking around or whatever.
Yeah. And it's not like, I'd say about 30 to 40%. And now I'm getting, for some reason, bleed off hate from Aron.
Well, just wait till this is done.
Yeah. And people were messaging me, and I'm like, what? Why are you messaging me? And so it's an odd.
Okay. I'm a little shocked, but
you're in the inner circle.
Well,
we're on the outside looking in.
The bleed off hate, and I'm not going to, this is a crazy situation that just happened. Cody messages me and says, "Hey man, I think this guy's kind of got it out for you. He said, you said this." And I'm like, dude, I don't go after anyone about their shooting online ever. I never have. You can search and search and search. If a guy's got bad form or something and I can help him, I might PM him and say, "Hey dude, you're kind of plucking. I got the same issue, whatever." So I use talk to text a lot. I answer several hundred messages a day. I posted something on a guy's page, and what it sounded like was if you put a clicker on your bow or something, it'll keep your arrow from lofting, which makes no sense. And he had complained to a few different people, Cody being one of them, saying over and over and over, "I drew first blood, I'm a dickhead." And I won't argue the fact I'm a dickhead, but the first blood thing, I'm like, man, I deleted it because I was using talk to text and it made no sense. Like, I remember the subject matter after I thought about it, and what I was trying to say was, if you get a clicker on your bow, it can sometimes help with a specific thing that was going on, but I deleted it because it came off goofy. End of story, never thought about it again. This guy had kind of a hate campaign against me. And so I just messaged him and I said, "Hey man, I said sorry like 5 times. I said, dude, it was not ill will, no intent. I think you're a good dude, no problem. Yeah, don't care about it, don't want to hear it. You drew first blood." I felt like I was back in Rambo, right? Like, you drew first. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, I didn't mean anything negative by it. I don't even know what lofting is, right? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, Cody, when you asked me about him, I said, it seems like a good enough guy, whatever. So I said, "Hey, here's my phone number. Call me." I was like, "Man, I don't want you irritated at me. I truly, no issue." "Yeah, I'm not calling you." And I'm like, so you're going to message multiple people that I drew first blood off of misunderstanding, not ask me, right? Like, not communicate with me. And what it was about, he could message Cody about my arrow flight shooting with Tom Clum the other day. And my arrow flight, and he was correct, I was tearing knock low, basically stiff and lock low. And I was trying out some different spring tensions. Yeah, knock right, excuse me. Which he was right. I was trying out different spring tensions, just screwing around. But he's like, "Oh, from a guy that can't even tune, I'm going to listen to him." Total misunderstanding, right? And I'm like, dude, just call me. I got no issue with you. Like, not a big deal. If you're looking for something hard enough, you will find it. It's like OSHA, right? Like, if you want to find something to be pissed off about, you can find it. And on this, have you guys ever seen me go after somebody about their shooting form online?
No, I haven't.
Either of you two?
No.
Yeah, I don't do that. I got enough of my own problems. Cody is getting bleed off, from that. Cody, you also got bleed off that it was impossible for us to shoot out at on free range open country. Right. Like, how many people told you it was corn and high fence? On my life, my daughter's life, Cody shot that free range right above the Paladro Canyon, 100%. No fences anywhere. Well, triple, three barbed wire fences. That's it. Same with mine. I shot mine literally on the beginning of the Paladro Canyon.
What's ironic about that, I shot one at London Oaks the week prior. That is a 1,200 acre high fence ranch. And the irony is
much harder
shot. And I tell people all the time, because I'm like, it's so much. I tell people, taking an animal at London Oaks is like trying to get laid in a strip club. Just because you can see it doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere with it. They've seen it all. They've heard it all. you got to be on your A game. And nobody believes me, but that's the irony is they bashed me for that. And that was an easier kill than the London Oaks kill. I
must be doing something wrong though. I don't get this hate mail, and I don't doubt it. You guys do. I mean, I stand corrected. I would. Yeah.
I will say for every 300 to 400 messages I get, I only get one bad one, but it's generally pretty bad. It used to be, worse. I think people have kind of figured out it's built into the cake, and I will go after you. And Cody's very good about letting people know that. You probably don't want to bring that up to Aaron. You will not like his response, but I think on my side of things, if anybody brings up anything negative towards Rob about you or Cody, is, hey man, they're working on the greater good. Like, how can you blast a guy trying to help the community? Like, so when you're looking at all this stuff, when I spend hundreds of hours literally helping people for free. Okay, if I say something that you don't like occasionally, suck it up, right? I'm doing my best here, right? I can't be perfect all the time. None of us can. I'm trying to help out the community. And generally what it is I'll say, there was a guy specifically, I think he's from Arkansas or something, and, anti-Trad Vane, anti-Aaron. And I said something on a podcast of, I don't really care about all the people that hate me. I'm really focused more on my friends and the companies I work with. He translated that into, I'm a paid shill, and that I am only worried about making money in the industry. And that makes no sense because I'm giving up $70,000 to $80,000 a year shooting a recurve by not shooting a compound. But when people want to hate you, they'll find a way, right? They're going to find it. It doesn't matter.
Well, the key is, and what I told that guy is, anyone that's spent time with you knows that you're answering text constantly. It's to the point that if you're spending time with Aaron in real life, Aaron's not there. He's doing. There was one point where I was having a conversation with Aaron, and I thought he was talking back to me, and he was talking into a video of his phone. Remember you asked about Aerospine? And I'm like, yeah, this, that. And then you had to look up at me and said, I'm not asking you, I'm doing a video on it. So Aaron's constantly managing the instant messenger on Instagram. And if you do 300 or 400 texts a day, you're going to make an error. That's why I told the guy, just reach out to him again. He'll answer your text. He won't answer my text. He'll answer your text. If you're a new archer and you've got especially a misunderstanding, he'll clear it up.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I do think that, again, my personality is going to rub people the wrong way. That's just a given. Overall though, like, I think all of us, we're doing a lot better job, getting people into the traditional archery community. So if I get some hate over that, I really don't care, because I do know, like, it does bring, joy to me to see people kind of relearning and rekindling their love for archery because of a recurve. And I got a lot of flack because I shot a compound recently, and I'm thinking, well, think of how many compound guys that are going to watch me shoot that and follow my page, and then see that I'm shooting a recurve and probably pick one up. Like, that's a win. And of course that's my own personal opinion, but I mean, Rob, your hunting partner shoots a compound, right?
Oh, hell yeah. But you know what? This year, gosh, I don't know, December. I mean, I've been hunting with a guy for 20 something years, and he messages me and says, hey man, I want to shoot a recurve this year. Help me out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, he listens to this podcast, but I believe that a lot of the excitement and desire to shoot one is because he hears us talking about it all the time. I mean, he sees me shoot it. He would love to be stump shooting like I do, or, stuff like that. But it's the excitement. It's talking about it. It's guys like Aaron, being successful. And, Aaron, you were the right guy at the right time. I mean, it's the perfect storm. You're the right guy at the right time for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody would agree with that, but
well, then they're wrong.
I try to, my biggest hope is you just getting more. Man, I was so wrong on so many different levels of what I thought was hunting. before I picked up the recurve. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with shooting a compound, right? I like shooting one occasionally, but what I am saying is trying to convert. Like I was trying to explain to my wife the adrenaline rush when an animal's in front of you. You can't verbal, text, whatever. It's just not getting across until the animal's in front of you. Explaining what it's like to get sub 10 feet from an animal is words can't describe it. And guys are like, oh, you can do it with a compound. I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to. Believe me, I know. I mean, unless it's just blind shithouse luck, it's just not going to happen. And then all the work and everything else, it's just a different feeling of what's the word?
Accomplishment, euphoria,
accomplishment, I guess. Yeah. I mean, there was, knowing you're getting beat down and staying with it, like the elk hunt with Gritty that first year. Usually I shoot an elk the first day or two a season, and when I finally got it done, I was like, all right, I made it is doable. I made the impossible possible, right? Not the impossible, but to me at the time, and being able to show people that, like, stay with it, it is doable. You can make it happen. And when they finally do, I think they kind of realize the same thing I did, or some people do.
I keep thinking about asking you, do you think it's become more about the weapon than the hunt? Do you think you're focused on more about the weapon than the hunt?
The weapon makes the hunt better, right?
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer because, for me, what Cody just said is the hunt would not be the same without the weapon. It would still be a good hunt. It'd be an adventure, but I mean, like right now, I'm not shooting traditional archery or hunting with a traditional bow to prove anything to anyone anymore. I'm doing it because I'm addicted and I like the feeling of what it takes to put an animal on the ground with it. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it's
you hand me a,
yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just about a method. It's right. You could shoot the animal at 60 yards with a compound, but you find the method of the hunt, the tool, as much or more rewarding than the hunt itself, right? Because it wouldn't mean as much if you shot it at 60 yards.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not, again, I have got zero drama with compounds. Some of my best friends shoot a compound. I just think that, Levi, Rogan, all those guys give me shit about shooting a stick. Rogan constantly makes fun of me. Not constantly, but he'll trad bow suck is basically what he says. I get it, but I think that if I could get Rogan to shoot a stick bow, he constantly does this motivational shit about, hey, you gotta put your all out there. And it's like there should be fine print. Unless it's a stick bow, forget everything I said. I think if I could get him to shoot one that challenge, I think because it seems like the person he is, he would enjoy that challenge. Now, there's some guys that it's just not their thing. I get it. I don't have any issue with that. But I tell you what, I mean, you stalk inside. I've shot a few animals now at feet away. That Aoudad I shot a mule deer at 3 or 4, maybe 5 feet away. That Aoudad was probably, 8-10 feet away. My mountain goat was 8 or 9 yards away. I've shot a bunch of different animals at that close distance. If you're an adrenaline junkie, it's gonna be hard to beat that.
Yeah, I don't know Rogan. I don't know these guys you're talking about, but I don't think that unless you're a bow hunter, I don't care if it's shooting a compound, but if the bow is what you're going to hunt with, then you might be able to make the leap to a stick bow. But if you're a 2-season hunter and you're just out there because, archery elk is open, but you have no problem picking up the rifle, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm like, you're not all in on archery, then you're probably not going to pick up a stick bow. Because it is a commitment. And if you have the commitment to be a bow hunter, then you probably have the commitment to be a stick bow guy.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
guy like Jocko, the dude's all about discipline, right? It's all about, I see that guy, as somebody that would have the fortitude to pick up stick bow and, you know, and have the drive to become good with it. There's a couple of the guys like that have podcasts that are, super about discipline. I think, well, those guys would do it. Those guys could do it.
Yeah. And I think that, it's not something you're going to be able to verbally just talk them into. Like, again, I did it to prove a point, and here we are. Many now constant adventures down the road that, now here I am selling on people on shooting a stick bow, where when I first started, it certainly wasn't for that reason, but I had to experience it. And I think a lot of those guys, that may be what it takes, is they just got to experience it and then, see for themselves.
Cody,
did you go live on Facebook on this?
No, but we are on, what is it, YouTube?
He's on YouTube.
Can you comment on YouTube? I had 8 or 9 people text me that they love the podcast so far.
Yeah, there was comments there. There were some pretty funny ones, actually.
You guys,
Cody, you look.
One guy texted me and said, "You're an ass."
Damn it!
This is the worst podcast in the world. You're not getting those?
No. Could you send me one?
No. I already texted you and told you you're an ass.
Wait, am I an ass or are you an ass?
No, Cody sent an explicit picture today. That was disturbing. That was a selfie.
Yeah, I knew this would be a lively podcast based on the pre-podcast chatter.
Well, you look like a little wrung out there. What time is it there?
No, it's not too late here. One thing I'll say about what Aron said, because when you're going across both groups, you definitely see more trad archers. To your point, they may not do it the most friendly way, but trad archers are more excited to get other people to try trad archery typically than you see compounders, right? You don't see many compounders going out to rifle hunters and saying, "Hey, come try this."
That's a good point. You
do see a lot of trad guys saying, "Hey, you've got to try this." And when you find the right circle of trad archery folks, it's a really, 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 really strong, and because we're a small community, it's a tight knit community. You can call somebody up but you just know remotely and be trading gear that they can try or helping them out with other things. So there is some real positives inside of this community, but it's growing faster than it was before, and people are definitely excited about it. And I would say if you find yourself that you're not shooting does anymore, or you've lost the excitement, go shoot a doe with a recurve or a longbow, and you'll find yourself hugging a tree afterwards, shaking, because it's an adrenaline rush for sure.
What just because we've been on a while here, just curious for both of your opinions, like what direction do you see the traditional archery going from where it's at now, and what do you think would be the best to keep bringing it up, or keep uplifting, whatever you want to call it, keep growing the numbers, that kind of thing.
Go ahead, Rob. You go first.
Well, personally, that's a question I posed to Dennis Harper on a couple days ago with Compton's. I said, "Man, how are you prepared to embrace the younger crowd, because they are the future, right? So the Blake Hunters and all those guys, they are the future. Swelling the numbers just by telling the stories, how to keep them." Here's one thing I'm curious about. So from 3-4 years from now, say you're getting 10,000 people across the country, right? In the last 2 or 3 years, how many of those guys are going to stay with it if they're not killing anything, right? If they could be successful with a compound and they haven't killed anything in a couple of years, I don't know what the attrition rate's going to be. So I don't know if I answered the question.
That's a good point, though, or a valid point, which is why the accuracy thing and spreading the word on, skills, tactics, all that kind of stuff's important, is to make sure people are successful.
Yeah, I don't think I answered your question, but that's one thing I'm curious about. As far as where I see it going, uh, it's getting more technical, and the young guys are going to embrace it, and I think it's going to go great. Yeah.
I see it going the same way. The rate of change is going to improve with the online coaching that's available right now. The learning curve is certainly, and we can see that now. You can see it whether you're at Kazoo. I've been going to Kazoo for years, literally 15, 20 years, watching people shoot back there. It's improving, and you can see people onboarding faster. We got people at Lancaster now winning with their bows that have only shot for a year or two. I mean, that says something. So I think that's moving faster. But the most important thing is I remember when I came into trad, I was broke. So I saved money up all year long to buy a $700 wood bow. And it was, I was on Archery Talk or Trad Talk trying to figure out what to get. I bought like a 58-inch or a 56-inch recurve that was probably around 60 pounds. And I was so excited. I'd saved up my money all year. I bought it at Compton's there in Michigan. And I went out and shot it. The first week I shot it, I was shooting a group about 3 feet wide at 10 yards. And I'm like, this is devastating. This is terrible, right? There's no way I'm going to be able to hunt with this. And luckily there was an old guy there who could shoot that helped me out a little bit. But I think we're going to see a lot less of that because the average opinion is becoming more and more accurate, mainly because of getting the right influencers in the right place and getting more visibility to the right coaches. And what I tell people all the time, don't take advice from people that can't shoot. It's that simple. If they can't shoot, don't take advice from them. And that helps you kind of thin the herd online and learn to shoot and build your confidence, and then don't change your opinion easy. I think that's a good characteristic of our community. You find something that works. People think I'm changing things all the time. I've been shooting the same riser literally since Masters of the Bearbow came out. And it's hard for me to change because you get a degree of belief in it. I think that's going to continue to happen. But what we see right now are people entering the market, spending $200 to $300 and leaving our market. That's what the numbers tell you. So they're picking up a cheaper bow, they're trying it, and then they're leaving. Or the other entry from compound is they're coming and get a $1,400 bow, and it's probably a little too heavy and they're leaving. So getting them informed on what to get is going to keep them here longer. And I'm convinced if you keep an archer in trad long enough to connect, you're going to have an addicted person.
Where are you seeing, or how are you seeing guys spending $200 on a bow, $300 on a bow, and then getting out? Where's that?
It was just some analytics that actually I think Greg Poole was shared with us when we were looking at some of the marketing side of trad. The total number of trad is a very, very large number, much larger than I thought. But it's a hit and quit. They try it and leave. It's the analogy I give people is guitar lessons. You buy a $150 guitar to try. It's really hard to play. You take 2 or 3 lessons and you give up. And
I'll explain what the info that Greg had. I've seen the info. It was literally one of the most state-of-the-art breakdowns. It can tell you how much money spent on crossbows, what the number one selling bow is on the market, which is a $200 and some recurve or compound. How many recurves are sold, how many arrows, I mean, broadheads. That's what you're talking about, right, Cody?
Right.
That crazy ass breakdown. Yeah. So industry wide, and it was some of the most useful information you could find, and also kind of head turning. Samick Sage is $169, right? Or, whatever. People watch whatever the bird move. What is it? With the chick, Katniss Everdeen. What the hell's that called?
Yeah.
Anyway, you watch that, you see Hawkeye on Avengers, Legolas on Lord of the Rings, and the kid wants to go out and, the kid buys a Samick Sage, they get no lessons, they go home, they shoot at a bag target for a week, they lost the interest, goes away. A guy watches a Fred Bear video, heads to the local archery range, buys a Samick Sage, no lesson, comes home, can't hit a stop sign twice, sits at, goes to a garage sale. That's generally what happens. But, when social media growing like it is and being not everyone, most people are tuned in. That is where I strongly agree with Cody. Is you get that informational stuff out, you get guys seeing these videos of people being accurate with the stick bow, and then where they can find the info for them to be accurate themselves. That is what will keep people doing it, because I can get a guy sighted in out to 40 yards with a compound in about 10 minutes. It might take 10 months for a guy and maybe never to be accurate out to 40 yards with a stick. The problem that you run into, and you hear a guy, Longbow Dan, and he's a friend. I like him, but I remember, he kind of, oh, you're a gap shooter. That doesn't count. Being accurate's a good thing, right? Like if you get a guy that walks into a traditional archery shop and he wants to learn gap shooting, which is more accurate than instinctive shooting. But it's a group of guys that are like, you don't want to do that. Instinctual is the way to go. That guy might not have the best hand-eye coordination, right? That guy, that may not be his thing. So that's where, showing all of the different aiming methods are, in my opinion, are important, because if instinctive shooting is your thing and you're effective with it, well, you've already been down the road and you've learned what's more effective, right? These are people just getting into it, and all methods should be shown for them to pick and choose what's best for them. And I just shot with Tom Sr. the other day, we were shooting, and I was like, dude, you're going to have to gap shoot to compete. Like even with all that wisdom and all that shooting ability, there's no way you're running with me unless you start shooting gap. You just can't. I mean, it's just impossible. And that's not me because I'm that good. That is just because the way that I, am aiming, if it's 37 yards, and I know at 37 yards I could put my point on it, and at 41 I put the bottom of my insert on its back, and at 28 I'm between the knee and the arm or whatever, armpit. That is an aiming method that cannot be deviated from. It's a constant. It's solid. It's brick and mortar. Are you going to walk out and shoot instinctively at 38 yards and take a bet on that shot? I don't know many people that could, but I can tell you right now, a 37, 38-yard shot, I'll bet on that cold bore all day, because I have an aiming method. Is it trad or not trad? I don't give a shit. It's accurate, and I like it. And so that's where the whole what's trad and what's not trad gets in.
I think what's interesting, if you look at the top 10 shooters in the world or just in the U.S., they all shoot the exact same way. You can stack them up in the final shoot down at IBO. They're using very similar equipment. They're all aiming in the same way. They're all breaking their shot. Their mental games are a little bit different, but overall they're all doing the same thing. And I get this email a lot. People say, well, Howard Hill said that you can't take target archery into the field. In Howard Hill's day, they were anchoring under their chin and aiming at a ball in front of the target and referencing that for the target. You can't infer that from Howard Hill saying into today. Today they're anchoring high, or they're crawling and they're gapping, which is a very practical approach to killing game. And Howard Hill also said that recurves aren't as accurate as longbows, and I have to debate with people constantly. Back in the day, recurves may not have been when he said that, but why is Brady Ellison not using a longbow right now? So it's
by the way, Brady Ellison just shot a perfect score in Vegas at 300 anyway, go into that, man. Why don't you talk about that, Cody, how accurate that is and who Brady Ellison is, because I think that's important.
Well, a 300 round, I get asked about 300 rounds a lot, and I think Matt Potter brought this up. He's, staying inside the red, which is around a 250, is kind of a really good benchmark for being lethal. So if he's shooting, you're saying he shot a perfect round? So he's staying within basically a quarter at 20 yards.
On a three, not a perfect round with X's, but a perfect round with tens on a three spotter.
So he's inside a Copenhagen lid.
And how many shots?
30.
900. He shot it.
Yeah.
Well, I think he shot a clean 900. He did it 3
Wow.
days in a row.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So anyway, that's, to me, if you look at the top shooters, figure out, take what works for you and try it and move that into the field. I think that's the best approach. And I think that approach is going to be more apparent and more clear, because now people can see who can shoot and who can't. And that's the difference between the internet forums of 10 years ago to Facebook Live and Instagram today. So I think people are getting on a better path faster. And once you get them there, they're here. We've got them. They're in our sport. They love it. How many people do you know that have successfully learned how to shoot a recurve, taken game and said, it's not for me, I'm going back to a compound? I literally don't know a single person.
I think I
Once
do.
Once they make that break and they get to that 250 mark, they're in.
Isn't Jake Down shooting a compound now?
He's shot one. No, Jake's always had a compound. He'll grab it usually for antelope every year.
I can't get anything going. Can't get him going. He's ice. Must be getting late.
Who, me?
Yeah, nobody will bite. Yeah.
No,
Pick it up with
there's
Jake
nothing to
Downs.
bite on. That's just. Yeah, I was gonna say. I tell you what, Jake, like with Jake and I like hunting with Jake a lot. Is, he's one of those guys that he doesn't really like shooting with a clicker, but he practices with one. And hunting, he's one of those guys that truly does probably get better with an animal in front of him. He stays in his lane. He sticks, closer up. He's a little bit better shot than I am closer up, and I'm a little better shot with him farther away. But it's guys like Jake. Jake's quite a bit, a decent amount younger than me, but you get the Jake Downses of today, and Blake Hunter, like you're talking about the younger guys. It would be cool to have a pile of guys for the younger generation to emulate. And so it's not just a Levi Morgan or a Dudley or a Gillingham or McCarthy and all these, known guys, or whoever is on hunting shows shooting a compound. You've got, South isn't getting any younger either, right? He's a little older than me. You've got some guys now that people can look up to, but it'd be cool to see some of these younger guys where, there's a pretty good hub for people to emulate when they get into it and learn from. And we're getting that. It's great. We're seeing that now, where I had to look pretty hard in 16, past the clumps to find, people to get info from, and, things like that. Eichler had kind of went the way of the air gun, right? He was shooting a compound and AR-15s and, crap, all that kind of different stuff. And Eichler's great, but, it was hard to you don't see a lot of magazine articles in Eastman's about stick bow hunting, right? You got to go to a traditional archery, which is kind of like the Catholic Church and Catholicism. If they're looking for it, that's one thing, but you want to get the people that aren't looking for it and spark their interest.
Right. Well, I said it before, and not to pump your tires up there, but you were the right guy at the right time for sure. And the trick is now is to how to keep them. And Cody, I think you're right. Hit the target, they'll stay.
Yeah, and I think truer words that haven't been spoken, because I think being realistic, if they blow a stock, they're probably going to be realistic to the fact it wasn't the stick bow's fault that they can't walk quietly, or the wind changed, or whatever. If they're hitting that spot consistently, in practice and everything else, that's going to be, super, super important. Because the hunting side of thing will come if I think anyway, if the accuracy's there. My wife's laughing at me.
The argument we've always made is, if you were going to get in a gunfight, do you want to be able to hit what you're aiming at before you go to the gunfight? And, it's people rarely win that debate. Same way I rarely win the debate, and a close friend of mine throws this one on me all the time. As soon as I open my mouth about broadhead studies, his immediate answer is, stand 20 yards away from me and let me shoot you with a Zwicky. And I always obviously say no. And he said, okay, then shut up and leave me alone. So I mean, it goes both ways. Sometimes we're picking the fly crap out of pepper, and it's not meaningful. But other times, I think there's some barriers you got to break through, and then immediately you're going to find success and confidence.
Well, this was a good good bullshit session for sure. I didn't really think I was a target, but there I was, backed into a corner, literally.
You weren't the target. I was just bringing up the accuracy thing. And I knew that you would have no idea who those people were. And all I wanted to get, the point across was no one in the history of mankind can argue when it comes to taking down game that being more accurate is bad. It's a losing argument.
No, it was a good talk for sure. Hey, before we wrap this up, we were going to talk about doing a giveaway.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you want to record something separate and then throw it on the front of this thing.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that for sure.
That way for all the people I've pissed off that don't want to listen to the end, they're going to hear it first. And then that way, we're not losing anybody.
Even when you piss people off, they can't leave. They're like, it's like a car wreck. Even the people that don't like you, they still got to stay there.
Well, that's good, I guess.
All right. You guys got any more?
Nope. I appreciate coming on. It's always fun. I was just as worried. I was like, all right, what am I being invited to? And I know when you didn't have a crossbow sitting in the corner, I knew we were going to have a good talk.
Cody, is that a nose ring you got, Cody? That stud right there? That's
no.
Wow. I didn't think you were that kind of guy. That's pretty cool.
No, I don't sport a nose ring.
I don't know. That's what it kind of looks like.
Dude, no homo. The beard looks good on you. I got to say, don't shave that thing off.
It? Yeah. I was waiting for you. You should feel it. It's soft. You're going to love it.
And now it's awkward. All right, let's do this giveaway thing.
Yep. All righty then. Well, I'll just leave the Zoom meeting. You guys can stay. How's that?
All right.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, Lord.
All right, man. You guys got anything else?
No, let's do this, the giveaway deal.
You want me to talk about it at the front of right now?
Well, I was going to say, do you want us to all do it, or are you going to do it on your own?
I thought all three of us were going to do it.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, let's do it now, and then you're going to splice it and put it on the front, right?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I'm tracking with you. I thought I got you. I'm tracking with you.
Christ on a cracker, Rob.
Well, come on, you freaking low-tech redneck.
I wasn't walking you into anything. Don't be scared. It's just a giveaway.
Son of a man, I got freaking beat tonight. So, yeah. All right, so what do we got going on, Aaron? We were talking about doing a giveaway.
Yeah, man, I figured this momentous occasion of all three of us getting on the podcast was worthwhile to do a crazy giveaway. So I had a bunch of stuff here at the house. I talked Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear and Black Eagle, Cryptic and Sitka, and I'm probably forgetting some other people. And then I've got a bow to give away, a DOS 17-inch riser DeLaw with carbon foam limbs. And I don't know if you guys got anything to give away, but I figured, we would do this. We'd do this giveaway. Rob will get it set up to where you got to do whatever you've got to do. Follow
Cody
Sticko
Greenwood,
Chronicles
Trad
page
Lab.
and
Trad
Lab, yeah. Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear and whoever else is involved in this, and trying to get more people into traditional archery. I think one good thing is we are all going to all rub our nuts on the free bow that might bring good luck to it. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, add that you did.
That's some recruiting incentive right there.
All righty. Well, everybody's
seen him. It's not a 21.
Everybody's got hand sanitizer nowadays, so that'll work out.
I had a mask on when I did it. I don't see that there's a problem.
That's cool. Well, yeah, we'll get it. We'll put our heads together and get it all put together, and maybe we'll release it when we release this same day.
Yeah, I'll let the push guys know. Maybe they'll throw in.
Cool.
Gotcha. But yeah, get on the Stickbow Chronicles Instagram page. I'll obviously share it on mine, but everybody, I'm sure everybody else will as well. But Rob will have it posted up on his page, and by the time it's said and done, who knows what we will have come up with to give away, but there's quite a bit of stuff already. So
it's gonna be a pile of stuff. Yeah. Cool, man. Look forward to it. Appreciate it. Cody?
No problem.
Cody, you got one of those metal handle riser things behind you there?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of metal handle. They're all over the place. There's an 05.
See, you should put one of those in the giveaway.
No, I'm not putting one of those in the giveaway. We can get a modern one, not one of the old guys. We'll see what we got. We'll come up with something good.
All right. Well, let's get on with it. That's where I'll cut it. That's where I'll cut it and splice it in the front there.
You're still live on YouTube.
Yeah, I was just going to delete this after it was over anyways.
Good Lord. How well do you think that one's going to be perceived? I may have went overboard on a few things, but whatever.
That's it. That was good discussion.